Will be led by Councilmember Wilson, pledged by Councilmember Barker.
Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for this wonderful weather we are experiencing. The recent rains have brought your creation and beauty by sharing the colorful flowers. Once again, you have touched us with our lives, with your beauty and with the creation to all of us, for all of us to enjoy. We also want to express our concern over the health of Rick Dietz. We ask for your continued help for both Rick and Deb as they continue to work through their health problems. Stand beside them and give them strength as they again regain their health. Also, we want to express our condolences to the Hartwell family with the passing of Darlene Hartwell, wife of our maintenance supervisor, David Hartwell. Please give them strength during this time. Darlene was a city employee that worked in the finance department. She will be greatly missed. Again, we want to thank you for this opportunity to serve our community. Please guide us as we and our city staff make decisions that will continue making this community, Apache Junction, a safe, secure place to live and raise our children and enjoy. We also ask for your watchful eye on our military members and their families wherever they are serving. Please guide them and keep them out of harm's way as they are protecting our freedoms. Watch over these proceedings and remind everyone that we can disagree, but we must work together for the good of the community. A good decision is one that meets the needs of the community and everyone can live with. In the Lord's name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Insalacco.
Here.
Vice Mayor Eck.
Here.
Councilmember Barker. Here. Councilmember Dietz, Your Honor. Councilmember Dietz will be absent this evening because of illness. Councilmember Surtee.
Here.
Councilmember Severs.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
6 members present. You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that the consent agenda be accepted as presented and that the award of bid for Public Works 2006-11-1, purchase of 400 lineal feet of rubber gasketed reinforced concrete pipe be awarded to Hanson Pipe and Precast in the amount not to exceed $60,800, and that the award of bid for Public Works 2006-11-2 drainage improvements at Dirtwater Springs, including head wall, concrete junction structure, safety rail, access barriers, and related improvements be awarded to H.W. Johnson in an amount not to exceed $22,288.05.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and second. Roll call.
I believe Councilmember Barker has just left the room, Your Honor.
And that's because she has a conflict of interest
On 2 of the
or a
items.
perceived conflict.
On 2 of the items.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck.
Yes.
Councilmember Severs.
Yes.
Councilmember Surtee.
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson.
Yes.
Mayor Insalacco.
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Awards and presentations. We have a neighborhood group here. Pat, would you like to?
This is June Whitman from the Swirl Canyon Village neighborhood, and as you can see, she's wearing her Citizen Leadership Institute shirt. She is her neighborhood has had almost 10% of all the, say, roughly 20 to 200 graduates we've had in that program. And I know in the community outreach you have in your work plan for council and mayor for internal, you're talking about meeting civic groups, community groups, neighborhoods, and other internal partners in the city of Apache Junction. I thought Swirl Canyon Village as a neighborhood, it'd be the greatest and the best one. And they brought a bunch of their neighbors here, and I'm going to leave it to June. She's not, she has the gift of gab.
June, If you remember a few nights ago when Artie and I were out there, who had the gift of gab? It was him. It wasn't you.
And
We're
Tracy.
really proud of our Neighborhood Watch program and the people and the residents. And we have one of the older first members here, Hattie Jones, and her sister kind of introduced me to the community, and it was interesting. And we try to have the city officials twice a year to come visit us, and we're really proud of being a part of AJ, and you guys really do a good job, and I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Manager's report? Ooh, that's... This is the time to call to the public. This time is set aside for each of our meetings for the public to address the council. If you wish to speak, you must fill out a form handed to the city clerk. When called upon to speak, please come forward into the microphone podium, state your name and address for the record. If there is a group speaking on the same subject, please choose a spokesperson. The council welcomes all your comments and suggestions. Arizona open meeting law allows individuals to address the council on any issue within the jurisdiction of the council. Council may not answer your questions or discuss your comments at this time. However, at conclusion of call to the public, council may do any of the following: respond to criticism made by an individual who addresses the council, ask staff to review a matter, ask staff to place the matter on a future agenda. Council shall not take legal action on matters raised at call to the public unless matters have been properly noticed for discussion and legal action. Due to the time restraints of the meeting, there is a 3-minute time limit for speaker. First one is James Campbell.
I'm James Campbell. It's the same thing. There's been a lot. I told him about it. I use 5 and 10 speed, 15 no more. I go to 5 today. They're not going around.
James,
Yes, sir.
do you know, what's your address?
3700, oh, my fault. 3700 South Ironwood.
Okay, thank you.
Drive.
Thank you.
My fault,
No, that's all right, go ahead. I just want to make sure I had the right location.
my fault. That's it.
Still got speeding.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Noel Benoit.
Noel Benoit, 900 North San Marcos, Lot 35, Apache Junction, Arizona. I put that on the screen there, and people can write that down and look at that newscast if they want. Did that for a reason, because I'm in that newscast, inches behind John Kyle's back and a little bit to, I think it was the right or left there on the shoulder. And I have some pictures of me in very close proximity of a guy that might be our next president, Senator McCain. And with Kyle, I had the security detail right and left. They were guarding his right and his left. I was basically, they left me to guard his back. I wouldn't have been in that position if I wasn't, whom I've said in the past, as far as having the federal clearances I've had and not being anywhere near what some people have portrayed me to be. The reason I bring that up is because in this town, we need to put an end to the character assassination and garbage. We need to spend our energy, our time, and our efforts on issues that will move this city forward. All of the character assassination and garbage just creates more suffering and more division. That's where the town really gets divided. We can disagree on issues. We could even have a recall election that would either uphold people on council or remove people that people are not happy with. It'll go one way or the other. We can get through that. But it's ridiculous when members of council and members of the city are attacked in character in order to try and neutralize their argument. That's not how we move forward on issues. John Donne's 18th sermon, no man is an island. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a part of the main, a piece of the whole. If a cloud be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less, as well as if a manner of thyself or thy neighbor were. Any man's death diminishes me because I'm involved in mankind. Therefore never sin to know for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. These attacks take every one of us down. John McCain has a residence here and he has one in Washington, D.C. Should we throw him out as senator because he spends most of his time in Washington, D.C. or running around the world? Should we do that to Senator Kyle? Your primary residence is the place that you choose, even if you own 5 or 6 residences. Joe Sievers has done a good job of bringing issues to the council, representing people who have come to him, and that's his job as a councilman. Let's put the garbage away and let's get together, work on the issues as a team in a think tank situation, and let's start progressing forward as team. There's no I in team.
Glenn Asserti.
With the 1425 South Coconino Drive, Apache Junction. I'm here again to talk about the incident that happened with my son a few weeks ago, and to let you know that we've received 17 responses for complaints from other people who had been in similar situations. All of those were young adults between the ages of 19 and 25, and all of them also have said they've made complaints. 3 of them said that they were told that Officer Eckert was terminated because of the incident that happened with them. So they now know that he was not. I also wanted to say that during the time that all of these happened, with the exception of my son, it happened during the old police chief's reign. About 12 months is as far back as we've gone. And that was not when the new chief was there, so I'd like to commend you on taking care of the old chief. And also to tell you that we're still not going away. I don't know what's going on. I haven't heard from anybody about what's going to happen. They told me that there would be another investigation. It has not yet taken place. And every time I ask, they just tell me that it was sent to Florence. And this is something that needs to get taken care of. Every night when I go to sleep, I worry about the other families who've gone through the same thing that I have. When your kid's life is at stake, then you got to stand up and be counted. And that's what I intend to do. And I'm encouraging these other people to do the same as well. We need to take accountability for our actions. If one time that the police department had said, we were wrong, we made a mistake. But no, they'll never do that. They just keep trying to cover it up, and it's not going to go away. Thank you.
Krista Rizzi.
Krista Rizzi, 1755 South Sombrero Road in Apache Junction. I don't know what it is about coming up to this silly podium that makes everybody so nervous, at least me. I have a safety concern regarding the track field at our high school. This is a printout from ChildSafeNetwork.org, and this is a printout of a 5-mile radius of our high school. It shows 32 registered sex offenders within a 5-mile radius of the high school. And these were printed out today. These are just the registered ones. I'm sure there's others that aren't registered. This shows a 2-mile radius of the high school. There's 15 sex offenders within a 2-mile radius of our high school. My concern is the high school field is owned, I understand, by the city and not the high school, that they lease it out, the football field. It's being utilized by citizens during school hours, which is a concern to me because we don't know who all these people are. I wouldn't suggest that we not allow people to exercise. I mean, we all know the importance of exercising. But a concern of mine is not knowing who these people are when they're there during school hours. I have a suggestion. I don't know if it's possible. I volunteered for a short time at the police department with the Child ID program. It's a digital fingerprinting, photographing ID card. It's done within 15 minutes. My suggestion is anybody that would like to utilize and exercise during school hours on the football field could pay a nominal $5 fee to have an ID card with their fingerprint. I mean, at least we'll know who these people are when our children are in school. And I would be willing, if it's possible to make this happen, I would be willing to volunteer my time to do the IDing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Pam Mosier?
Good evening. My name is Pam Mosier. I live on Foothills Drive in Apache Junction. Been up here many times speaking on several issues. And tonight, my heart is very heavy for this council. The citizens have asked over and over for the council members to listen to the citizens of the town of Apache Junction. And what I see before me is one of the most dysfunctional councils I've ever been a part of or spoken in front of. I have come for the entire time this council has been here, and there are so many issues that this council needs to put their time and effort into rather than defamation of character of one of your own. I'm a part of an EMS industry. One of our first things that we do, we take care of our own. We work together as a team, and like another gentleman said, there is no I in team. We work together. You guys have been elected to work together as a team. There are two members that are up here on this council that religiously have more heart, more soul, more compassion for the citizens of AJ, that have listened and have represented the people more than I've ever seen, one of which is Joe Sievers. And it just breaks my heart and makes it so heavy that you guys have nothing better to do than to just print such garbage and trash, front page on one paper, a little bitty article on another paper, just tearing apart a person who gives his heart and soul and listens, truly listens. You can re-watch you guys on the TV over and over and over, and you see the little gestures and the note passing and the eyebrow raising and just who's really listening and who really is not. Same over here. Who's listening, who really is not, and who really has that heart and soul and compassion. And I think this has to stop. You guys need to work together for the citizens and not attack your own and devour them and put that as your number one priority versus representing the citizens of AJ and those things that are very, very important to us that we bring to you over and over and over and over, and not someone that is a part of your team. You all are to be a team. What happened to teamwork? You guys, it's pretty embarrassing. Watch yourselves. Look at what you do. It's embarrassing.
Tom Parker?
Your Honor, fellow council members, Tom Parker, P.O. Box 6646, Apache Junction. On behalf of the Apache Junction Police Association, we would like to express our support for the sitting council. We ask that you stand above the fray, not concern yourselves with the threats of recall and our critics. We do request that you continue working for the betterment of this community and its residents, and we thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Brian Martin.
Mayor and Sulaco, distinguished city council, I'm Brian Martin, 8212 East Twisted Lease Drive in Gold Canyon. I'll be running for county supervisor here in District 2 for Pinal County, And I want to let you know I look forward to working with each and every one of you as we move forward to join our communities. We've spoken previously, reference a regional council between Apache Junction and Gold Canyon. Those sentiments will ring true throughout the entire county of Pinal as we work together to join Pinal, along with Pima and Maricopa County and the like. I appreciate the time to introduce myself to you and wish you the best. Thank you.
I'd like to just mention that Brian Martin just finished his tour over in Afghanistan in the Air Force, and I commend him for his service. Luke Burke.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. I'm Luke Burke, 1013 East Linda. I own and operate Broken Wheel Enterprises, Burke's Towing and Recovery. Bear with me, a little shaken. My first time up here, and my voice is always like this. I've been a resident here since '84, except for 4 years I spent freezing my butt off in Nevada. Just wanted to touch on a couple of things. I read the paper a couple weeks ago, listened to a few council meetings. Disturbs me that the local tow companies are screaming poverty. And the other thing that concerns me is there's a company that may get put on the rotation according to the paper that's only been here a year and a half. This brings a lot of issues up, but we know they can't be discussed in 3 minutes. Second thing is, I think what some of the people are trying to do to Councilman Severs is ridiculous, unfair, after all the good things he's done for some of the people in this town. Everyone has a transitional period in their life. I think that's what he's going through. For people trying to crucify him for something as simple as playing the real estate game, I don't think it's very fair. That's all I got. Thanks.
Jimmy Edson.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Jimmy Edson. I reside at 1309 West 15th Avenue in the city of Apache Junction. Just want to mention first the complaint that you guys received in your mailbox a couple of weeks ago, filed against a Apache Junction police officer. In my opinion, this officer should go. I'm going to drop that. Last meeting, Robin, you were, I thought, very, very unjustly attacked. These personal attacks should not ever happen in these chambers. This recall thing that's going, I think it's really a sham on the citizens of Apache Junction. There was a police officer had a letter in last week's paper that I agree with 100%. He was telling the people behind the recall to wait till the regular election, which is just a short time after a recall election would be set. And you know, the time span on these petitions taken out, I think it'd be a possibility of more than one election even. It might require 2 or more. Now, I've known Mayor, Vice Mayor, Robin, and Jeff for about 30 years. I know you guys are honest. The other 3, I'm sure they are too, but I don't know them like I know you guys. I have no problem with the people sitting on the city council now. These recall elections is going to cost us, and I'm one of them, taxpayers, many thousands of dollars. And I think if the press here tonight, they should let the people know that this is taking place and it's going to cost us. This thing scares me to death when it pops off in my face. I would like to make a suggestion that if these petitions are signed and when they come back in, that staff, and I'm sure Kathy and George will do it, and the city attorney, make sure that voter fraud in some manner is not involved. Make sure that guy carrying that petition last year didn't vote somewhere in New Hampshire or Utah or somewhere last year. If he did, it's voter fraud. And if you find voter fraud involved, prosecute them. You got a few dissidents that started this thing, all of them live in the same little apartment. I bet if you could check back where they come from, they did the same thing to other communities before they came here. So you guys, senior staff, hang in there. Thank you.
Elliot Fisher.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Elliot Fisher, 547 East Quail, Apache Junction. Also here on behalf of the Greater Apache Junction Association for Effective Government. A little bit of history I've been noticing, and I keep wanting to bring this up at council meetings. The OSCO building at the corner of Ironwood and Southern, 5 or 6 years ago I spoke and said it's a bad idea to have 2 pharmacies right across from each other. One of them is going to wind up shuttered. It's been sitting there a year or 2. Maybe we could do something about it. Put somebody special just to deal with it. It's becoming an eyesore, seeing people, and it's just not looking good. Anyway, wanted to bring that up. Brian Martin's here tonight. I haven't met the man. I'm glad he announced for the county supervisor position. I would like to be involved in that myself, but I've been contacting Gilbert Hoyos for an exploratory committee paperwork or petitions to run. Haven't received them in 2 weeks, and it kind of makes me wonder. I've been getting the runaround. It makes me wonder all the way back to 2000. Could Gilbert Hoyos do anything right? Maybe he lost the paperwork like the ballots back in 2000. Certainly hope he didn't. Anyway, a year ago or so, maybe 2, there was discussion, I guess maybe it was the last election, that we need to improve the image of Apache Junction. 6 out of 7 people, I think, are recalled. This is not good, and it's certainly not improving the reputation. I don't know if the players involved in the recall. I agree with the gentleman previously. It's expensive to have the elections, but it's no excuse if the council's having problems of that nature. You know, just like I mentioned with the school board election, the bond election, if, you know, 2 close together in that situation, the county didn't have any problem spending the money on that. It's even more important when you have bad council members to have an election, and a recall being that close. I don't see the connection there, but certainly maybe all the players involved and the people doing the recalls could come to the table and work it out rather than having a recall election. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Joe Severs.
Yes, I'm Joe Severs. I live at 1184 North Star Road. I'd like to read something that I received recently. Tempe officials have decided to increase security at City Hall in response to recent shootings at municipal offices in other states, including the shooting deaths of the 5 in St. Louis. Tempe mayor, his name is Mayor, said obviously needed improvements in the wake of the Missouri shootings. It was just one of those kinds of things that was a real wake-up call. Scottsdale installed metal detectors at City Hall in the past. They took them out. Now Scottsdale officials have recently discussed putting them back in. Mayor said he fears a detector would seem unfriendly, but he also said he is concerned about the safety of city employees and citizens given the attacks in other communities. It's becoming real, and that's a sad commentary. Are these people being criticized for saying the obvious, Mayor Insulaco? These people are the city leaders, the mayors. You, Johnny, you should have been the one with enough foresight and concern for our public safety to do what I did, to make these improvements on your own. Instead, I had to say it. I had to start it. Instead of showing that you agree and care, you criticized me and tried to make me look bad again. I'm asking you, please start leading this community in a positive way.
Charles Button.
My name is Charles Button. I live at 1680 North Star Road, Apache Junction. When speaking about Mr. Severs, I have to explain that my opinions are biased because of previous, untruthful statements made to me in the past. I believe the only way to support or help Mr. Severs, support all the statements that was made during the work session, is to have an independent counsel investigate and either clear the shadow over Mr. Severs or pursue whatever has to be done. I have a problem. With a council that works so close together, has the council looked at themselves? Did anyone on the council know Mr. Severs was moving? Did anyone on the council, were they at Mr. Severs' house the day they moved? Did they help Mr. Severs move that day? These are questions that you have to look at yourself. This city must maintain a high level of integrity. The city council, although I despise the word recall, it should consider the ramifications. If it were a council that does not have the heart, the intent, or the integrity to police itself, then why would we need a council that supposedly represents the citizens when as individuals we will end up representing ourselves? People that come before you are speaking their heart. A lot of us have bullets that we put down so we don't miss the obvious. But falsifying, not complying or providing information when you have it is not correct. It's wrong. That doesn't make you a good councilman. That's all. This whole thing needs to be settled. Either somebody has a guilt or they don't have a guilt. I would not like to walk around oppressed because someone insinuated I was guilty. I live 1,000 yards down the street from Mr. Severs. If anybody asked me, was that house always occupied, you would not want to hear Mr. Severs would not want to hear my answer. Because I did not document when I drove by. I did not document when I thought it was vacant. I did not document when there were dim lights on or when there was a chandelier light on. I was not doing an investigation. But if I were, there's a lot of questions that I would ask that could be resolved right here in this council. Thank you very much.
Suzanne Palmieri.
Honorable Mayor, Council, and staff, my name is Sue Ann Panami. I live at 850 West 15th Lane, Apache Junction. The new stipulations approved by the council regarding new fees, penalties, and regulations for dog owners residing within city limits is a step in the right direction. However, more could be done and should be done to help protect the dogs themselves from falling victim to oftentimes ignorant ownership. After personally tending to some of the dogs in the AJ Animal Hospital that were seized from the Altop property in February, it became obvious to me that things have got to change in our society to prevent this extreme cruelty in the future. One only needed to look at some of these dogs to see the actual size of their constant confinement that was too small. Leg muscles had atrophied to the point some could not even stand upright or walk from lack of freedom from their tiny crates. And sadly for some, they never got a chance to taste their bit of new freedom. These conditions did not come about from a weekend, a week, or even a year of temporary small housing, but rather from many years of abuse. Repeated years of inhumane living conditions that could have been prevented if their owners had to comply to a yearly on-site inspection conducted by a qualified inspector before obtaining their annual commercial kennel permit. The large areas of Apache Junction provide a perfect setting for puppy mills and dog boarders. The potential for animal abuse in situations where large numbers of dogs are allowed can go totally unchecked for years without a visual inspection of their living conditions. It's going to require a lot more than laws and ordinances and permits to stop this abuse. It's going to take all of us in doing our part. Some of us, it just takes some moral, good judgment to stand up and not be afraid to speak out against our neighbors. Granting commercial kennel permits without a mandatory visual inspection of the facility is a license to abuse. I would ask the council to please consider the feasibility of such an amendment. Thank you.
Maria Ewell.
Maria Ewell, 1330 West Roundup, Apache Junction. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, staff. During the past few months, it seems that several of the call to the public statements have been negative in nature, which is not productive for the community. I believe these statements might be intended to cause confusion and doubt for many, but they are probably for personal political gain. These statements are not just at certain elected officials or city employees, but it is a reflection towards us, the residents, and our city as well. So, this evening, I would like to start changing the negative tone and share with you 6 small words that have a powerful meaning. AJ pride is hard to hide. Yes, AJ pride is hard to hide. When people ask me where I live, I don't say the East Valley, East Mesa, out by Gold Canyon. I say Apache Junction. Why? Because AJ pride is hard to hide. If any of you here or at home are like me and you're proud of your family, your home, your accomplishments, then you too can be proud of Apache Junction. There are a lot of positive things going on around town. The current construction on Apache Trail, the development at the Cobb Center, and Idaho in 60. These projects will bring new businesses that will create new job opportunities and revenue to our city. These are just a few of the things that we can be proud of. Let's build on the positive in our community and let the negative go. Our city and its residents are like a large family, and families support each other unconditionally. So if you share the pride of this great city and all it has to offer, you too will say, AJ pride is hard to hide. Yes, AJ pride is hard to hide. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. John Kentowski.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, staff. Bear with me tonight. I'm still trying to get over this bad cold I got, and I hope if I cough, I don't get that far too. I don't wish to have I'm hoping the last one too.
You're a big guy.
I come up here tonight basically to talk one more time about issues. I came before in September of last year, talked about the cargo container issues, and talked back in November and December. I said, man, 12 months is too long, let's get on with it. Along with the caretaker issue, when I went on planning and zoning, come back 9 months too long. I'm not, Joe, nothing we're friends, whatever, but either way, I'm tired of waking up every Monday and Tuesday, and then in the East Valley Tribune and our local newspapers, reading about some dirt that we got going on. All right? If you get on the blogs for the Tribune, I said this once before, when the car, I think it was when they brought up the recall issue, which I still am not in support of, that some guy in Connecticut was on the blogs saying they wanted to trade councils with us. I too, been here 7 years. I love this city. Like I said before, I'm probably going to die here. all right? People ask me where I'm from, I say I'm Apache Junction, tell them I'm Planning and Zoning Commissioner, Parks and Recs, and they look at me and I try and tell them about the good parts of the city. Let's get this over with. We've got it on the agenda tonight for direction of staff. Either way, doesn't make a difference. Joe, if they boot you out, they boot you out. If you stay here, you stay here. But I'm tired of reading dirt in the paper every week between the two local papers and the East Valley Tribune. The East Valley Tribune, people can't come within 2 miles of this place. They pick up an East Valley Tribune and why stop? We want to improve our image. We got to improve what they put in the papers about us, because that's where people go to look. They go on the Tribune blogs, they read the newspapers that are around here and everything else. I don't care how much money you spend sending out flyers, telling them how great a city this is. We're not going to make it if we can't improve our own image. So whether it's true, whether it's not true, please, let's not just drag on for 6 months like we did everything else. I want to see this council achieve something. We've got the Power Center coming in, something of good before we go out, before the next election, that we can say that we've done in this city since the new council came in. Not saying we haven't done anything, but I'd like to see a lot more of it. Thank you again.
Sharon Deal.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'm not used to this. It's always my husband that came forward to do any talking before the council, but I'm here with a heavy heart too. I think the majority of the council is trying to do the best job possible. And like the gentleman said, these articles that are appearing in the papers, they are only doing damage to a wonderful city that I have lived in for 19 years. And I know nobody can answer questions, but I have a couple, and they are directed at Mr. Sievers. One is, there was an article in the Mesa Tribune stating that you supported my husband when he ran for mayor, and that would have been in 2003, which is very true. But you forgot to mention that he also supported you. And he also talked to you 1 month before his death and told you he wasn't appreciative of how you were handling yourself. And you in turn said that he was more of a rebel than you were. Well, those flags that are on the trail, he was the chairman of that. I sat here tonight, or stood here. I did not see you put your hand over your heart. And anybody that's on this council that was, or around in 2003, knew my husband would never have supported anybody that wouldn't say the pledge to the flag, because I believe he did some damage to himself talking about another council member. And I'm not going to mention names. The other question I have is, your wife wrote an article kind of directed at me in the Independent. And she asked me to call, and that she'd sign my petition. Well, now I find out through your statements that your wife lives in Gilbert. So how is she going to help me with my petition or sign it? And I have called the number several times and never received an answer. I wish the council, all of you, could work together and make this the city. I am proud to be an AJ resident, Apache Junction, and I'm proud of our school systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Announcements or current events, Chip? You have
some replies. Have some replies.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Does anybody have any replies, any comments?
I do, Your Honor.
Yes?
Mrs. Deal, I'd just like to say that I respected your husband very, very much, and I was very sorry that he passed away. And if I offended you by saying that he was more of a rebel than I was, I truly didn't mean to. But as anybody who knows me knows, a rebel is not a bad thing. A rebel is a person who cares enough to fight against all odds and make a difference. And George Deal was that man, and I respected him very much. I want you to know that.
Yeah, I did, Your Honor. There was brought up the issue on the sex offenders. And this is something that I just got educated on recently when one moved into my neighborhood across the street from me. They have rights. And according to, it's not even up to the city, it's up to the state. They're supposed to notify us. I was never given a notification. I found out from a neighbor, and that put the wheels going where I spoke with the city attorney about it. But I believe there's more, Christie, sex offenders than what you had, because when I inquired about the one across the street from me, the city attorney said, "You mean the one here?" I was like, "Nope." "The one here?" "Nope." "The one here?" There was like 4 within a mile of my house, 4 or 5. And then I said to them, he said, "Oh, okay, yeah, that is a new one." So we have a lot of them, and it is a great concern. There's a bus stop in front of this guy's house. I've been informed that we have no control of that. I would like to know if we have control over the track, though, that issue. And I didn't realize that. I thought it was the high schools. So I would like to know if we do have control, and if we do, then if there's something we can do about, certainly, especially people that are during school hours. When I was in school, you never saw somebody on the track unless it was after school hours. So, I hear all these attacks, and I gotta say, being up here, sitting on a council, I'm proud to be on this council. I've been on this council, it'll be 11 years in June, and I've heard attacks forever and ever. But it's an honor to be voted by your citizens to be up here, and that's the way I've always treated it. And people can criticize, but you got to be thick-skinned to be up here, because you take this abuse. And the people saying dysfunctional council now are people just won issues that they were concerned about, and there's no I in team. Well, if you guys would stop all your, writing the speak out and everything, it's not the council. We don't have control to speak out. I don't write the speak out. I seldom read it. And I learned that I can't read it because it doesn't mean anything to me unless you put your name to it. One of the things that just troubles me is when this incident happened where the mayor, long-term mayor, and council members were shot out of state, I did the professional thing. I didn't go to the diocese. 11 years I've never gone to that diocese there and called the public and criticized my mayor for not doing something. I did what the professional thing was, and I went to the city manager and I said, we need extra protection. And that's one of the reasons, I know other council members did it too, that the chief's here and there's a uniformed officer here. I'm not going to go to that call to the public and criticize my mayor for not doing his job. How do you know he didn't tell the city manager the same thing I did? So that, just when I think, we are starting it, I feel like it just all falls apart. So I just think it should be handled more professionally.
Well, I'll make one quick statement. I told George many times, George, we needed an officer in the back of the room. And I have said that, and I've been saying it. So don't ever say I didn't do my job. And if you would have told us that, I wouldn't say in private, but not have to go in front of the call to the public on the TV where some nutcase could be out there and want to do it. That's what I criticized you on. That's now why we have a uniformed police officer here. Okay. Is there any, Chip, you got announcement?
Hi.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got to get my head looking that way.
I also said that as soon as I got elected, I also wanted more security cameras in here before any of this came up. And Mrs. Moser, wherever you are, you said we're not listening. We are listening. We didn't start this rumor about Joe living out of the city. But I think tonight we will take action to settle it. We will get it out into the open and we will discuss it and we'll take care of it. So that's what we're going to do. We are doing that because we're listening. We don't have time to be picking on each other up here. So I think we're going to settle it tonight and get to the bottom of it.
Okay. Okay, Chip. All right. announcements and current events.
Your Honor, I have a couple pictures here. As you know, I have a favorite passion, and the passion is the Black Stallion Literacy. The 27th, yeah. Excuse me. I'll learn to play with the machine. These are pictures of last year when we did the second touch at the rodeo grounds. Again, we're going to have it at the rodeo grounds. This is part of the Black Stallion Literacy Program, where the children get an opportunity to read to a horse. And it is a neat situation where the kids come from, we're going to have 4 schools from the East Valley, Desert Vista School from Apache Junction, and then 3 schools from, one from Mesa, one from Gilbert, and one from Chandler area. And they're going to be coming out. We're going to be having over 400 and I think it's 37 children that day. There's a little bit of time where they get to learn a little bit about what you feed a horse, the horseshoeing and everything, and get to read to a horse. And of course, they also get the opportunity to pet a horse. Joe, you should remember that one right there.
That's blue.
And above all, I'm inviting the community as well as all the city council and the mayor to come out on, again, March, jumped a month, March 27th. It's from 9:30 in the morning, and we'll be running until approximately 2:30 in the afternoon to 3 o'clock. And the Desert Vista School is going to be there roughly about 12:30. I thank you.
At the rodeo grounds, Joe?
At the rodeo grounds.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Application for special event liquor license for Superstition HOG chapter for 2008 Arizona Bike Week.
Mayor and Council, Mark Laresh, 2910 West Apache Trail. Once again, Arizona Bike Week is upon us. We will have, I got Tom Foster from our Hog chapter. He's our director, and Jenny is our marketing manager at Superstition. We're going to have a lot of motorcyclists come and visit our community, quite a few of them. It's going to begin Saturday the 29th through the 6th of April, and there will be a lot of motorcyclists here at Apache Junction, so we're hoping that everybody will keep an extra eye out because some of them might be new to our community. That's the reason that we're having a kickoff party at our dealership, so the Taser run's going to be coming out of there, and we're having a firefighters run also, so there's going to be a lot of folks in our dealership. And we'd also like to extend a welcome to the entire staff here to come out and visit us. Please come out and have some fun with us.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone like to speak on this item? Seeing none? Thank you very much. Is there any discussion?
Yes. This event has happened, twice so far, I believe? And I know there was a situation with the neighborhood behind you that had a problem with the noise, and I know that you guys have done everything possible to invite them to the event, and I think offered to put them up in a hotel or something for the night. I hope that they can understand that this is a once-a-year thing, and it's very good for our community, and maybe they'd like to go play bingo for the night or something so the noise doesn't bother them. Okay. Well, it's a great event. Thank you.
Any more discussion? If not, I'll call for a motion.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I move that the application for a special event liquor license for Superstition Hog Chapter for the 2008 Arizona Bike Week from March 29, 2008, submitted by Mark Laresh, be recommended for approval to the Arizona Department of Liquor License and Control.
Second.
Moving to second. Roll call.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Surtee?
Yes.
Mayor Insalacco?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
proposed resolution number 07-46, declaring amendment to Chapter 6 Animals for the City Code of Public Record.
Mr. Mayor, if you
yes.
could, that one could be done with number 8
through 10?
I'm sorry, 8 through 10, yes. That can all be done in one public hearing, but you probably should read the titles of each one.
Okay. This is Tom Kelly? Is he? Yes.
You called me?
I called you. It's got your name up here.
I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
Well,
Mr. Mayor, I can...
This was one of those things that the city attorney, I believe, and...
Yes.
You're an address.
Officer Sully and Dean could not make it tonight.
oh, okay, all right. Well, like I said,
I could go through this very quickly.
Okay.
Council
I'm sorry,
has
Tom.
seen this
Sorry about
item,
that.
or these
Shocked
items.
me. I just
It
got
does
my-
say your name, Tom.
Which got your name up there.
I just got it like 3 minutes ago, so
Oh.
it's my fault.
This has been on the agenda about 4 times. There's been changes each time. There are some additional changes that we made from the last meeting. And I also had a meeting with Mr. Wilson, and he wanted another change. And I'll go through the changes. I don't want to go through everything because we've done it already. One big issue for the council was at the last meeting on page 3, at large definition. The council wanted to add the animal, actually it means in any street, alley, or other public place or on private property. What's being added is without being attended by the owner or secured by physical restraint. So the attendance of the owner, that was an issue for the council. So that is now in the language. The other big issue was on page, well, another issue we found, page 10, new section G. Any dogs over the allotted number allowed will either be surrendered to the Animal Control Division or to new homes found by the owner within a 24-hour period after the discovery of the excess number of dogs by enforcement officers. Going to page 20.
Joel?
Yes.
Before we move on, is there any way that 24-hour period could be extended a little bit, maybe 36? You know, I mean, a lot of people that have more than the allowed number of dogs are fostering them and trying to find them new homes.
From a logistics standpoint, I don't see a problem. Once again, this is your canvas, this is your art, your works of art.
If
You wanna
council would
change that
agree to
to-
that, I would like to give them a little bit more time to find a good home for the animal.
That would have to be in the amendment once this is passed, but we can do that, there's no logistical problem. Going to page 20. This was we worked on this language back and forth, but I think it's in good order now. The issue was letter E on section 6-6-2 sanitary regulations. Mr. Wilson and I met and we talked about reasonable procedures. I met with him last week, so what you don't see there is the last sentence. It says containment procedures shall take into consideration acts of nature such as rainfall and wind, as well as natural drainage courses and sloping terrain. We're going to put reasonable in front of containment. So that would have to also be in the motion. And that is it for the changes from the last meeting. If there's any questions at this time?
Yes. The lady that had addressed the council during call to the public about this, will there be, and does it state anywhere in here that there would be an annual inspection for the commercial breeder's license? So if there is some wording we could put in there that would help prevent what has just happened here, would be nice to to see that put in there.
Well, first of all, I don't think it would prevent, because you could do, I mean, you might be able to find things that happen, but if the people know that animal control's coming, they could hide certain things, and then once the inspection's done, they could continue to do what they were doing.
Well, it wouldn't be on a designated date, first of all, kind of like a health inspection.
Well, if you said annual,
Right.
then someone would expect it to happen at a certain time.
Yeah, but if you have 182 dogs or something.
I mean, if they're collecting, it may help.
Might be worth the inspection.
Okay, well,
Wasn't that in the new policies that they were working on as to when they fill out to get the different class permits, that they were going to be going out and inspecting them? I remember
I think they were inspecting.
Sullivan saying something along that line.
that could be a policy, a practice and policy that's within the department. I'm not sure it's in this code. It never was before. I don't think it was in here. If you want to add a provision, we can do that now, or we can continue this, because I don't know what kind of language you want. If you just want a simple statement that for the kennel permits, give me a second here.
For the commercial breeder's permit, there would be an annual inspection.
Personal as well.
If you want to add that in a motion, that would be fine. That would be under, you're talking about commercial and personal?
617 and 618.
Is that correct, Mr. Severs?
I was thinking only commercial, but I see a lot of head nodding for both. I wouldn't have a problem with that. You know, just so long as we know that we can protect the people that are trying to help the animals, and the ones that are hoarding them are the ones that this would be for.
Okay, we can, whoever makes the motion should state that that language should be added to both of these sections so that there would be an annual inspection.
Robin is.
I didn't get the other one, so Joe.
Okay.
Thank you for your confidence.
Okay.
It's too busy listening to the other one.
I have a question. Joel, I have a question. I had a resident call me, he's concerned about this ordinance because he had, his two dogs had puppies, and they've got seven dogs now at a residence. Now, they're all 4 years old, but they kept them all. And he said he hadn't had a complaint, they're not barking, they're not noisy, he cleans up after them. But he would have to get a commercial permit now, after over 5?
Let's take a look at page 9. Class 1 permit, a Class 1 permit for personal dog kennel shall be required for any person who owns, maintains, harbors from 4 to 5 dogs over 3 months of age. Class 2 permit would be from 6 to 8 dogs over 3 months of age.
And what's the fees on that?
The fees are in the other ordinance, and that amounts for the Class 1 is $40 annually, up from $30. And then there's a new Class 2, that would be $60 annually.
So $60 and, now under Joe's suggestion, would they be checked annually or no?
Well, I think that's what I heard, that he would like an amendment that would cause annual inspection on both a commercial kennel and a personal kennel.
I have a question. Would this be inside the house or just outside?
Well, it depends. You mean the inspection?
Yes.
It depends where the individuals keep the animals. I think an inspector would be entitled, since it is a permit.
Inside a residence?
But they don't need a warrant because they're not inspecting for a crime. And it'd be a voluntary thing, and if the person didn't want them in the house, it depends where they keep the animals.
But they get, the people in Tucson had 800 dogs inside the house.
Yes, they did. That was outrageous. And I don't know how, there's a big story there, but I'm not sure how that was allowed to happen or whether the neighbors knew.
What class license did they have?
They probably had the 800 dog license. I don't know. It's a horrible situation. It really is. It's a terrible situation.
I just want everybody to know that that type of thing is what we are trying to prevent here. We're not trying to control people's private rights as to what they can and cannot have for pets. We're trying to stop the puppy, what'd you call them, Kathy?
Puppy farm.
Puppy farms.
Puppy mills.
Yeah. Somebody to have 185 animals on their property is wrong, and something should have been done about that before. And if we could have known if there was some kind of a license that had been taken out on this, we would have had the right to go in and do an inspection, and that's what I'm trying to do here. If it has to be on residential, I mean, I don't really like that. I agree with commercial. If somebody's got that number of dogs and they have a commercial kennel license, I think that the annual inspections would work fine.
Legally, this is an administrative permit inspection process, and if the person said, no, you can't come into my house, then I think they could revoke the license. And if there's no other indicia of crime occurring, there's nothing you can get a search warrant on. There's nothing the city could probably do to follow up to say, hey, are there 800 dogs in your house? I mean, there's just no way to do it unless there's some kind of indicia of reality, of something a judge could say, yeah, I think you have probable cause to go into that house. I'm going to sign the warrant.
So what do you recommend?
Well, this is really a policy decision of the council, and if you want to have annual inspections inside homes, I think you could certainly add it to the personal kennel permit. The commercial one is easier to defend, but I think in court I could win on the personal dog kennel annual inspection inside the home. And if they said, no, you can't come inside, okay, well, we're going to revoke your kennel license. And there might be other things that the officer sees on site that they can take to a judge, and they could get a search warrant to go into the house. That could happen. 800 dogs, they're not going to hear a bark? I don't think so.
I'm hoping that this is going to be like our property maintenance standards. When we went through all that process, it was for those 2% that would not comply. It was for the worst of the worst. It's not to affect everybody and to hurt people who are trying to do a good thing. I know we've got a lot of people in our community that are boarding dogs to try to find them a better home, to keep them from being euthanized. And I hope that we can do this in a way that it's not going to hurt them.
Hurt them.
I have a question.
Question?
Mr. Sievers?
Yes.
Did you want to add that type of language as a prerequisite for renewal of permit, or is that just any time during the year? Because in Part B of each one of those sections is where it talks about the validity, length, et cetera. Did you want to add that in there, or?
It would have to be as a prerequisite for the renewal, because if they go in and find out somebody's got 90 dogs, I don't think they're going to renew their license. But I don't want a set date, an annual, the anniversary date from the time the license was paid, because then, like you said, could happen. When you have a restaurant, you don't have your annual health inspection on the same day.
Okay, I got you.
Okay.
Typically, someone would have to come in to get the permit, and that's when they could ask about the inspection, and then the officer can say, well, okay, I'll be here between May 1st and May 10th. Yeah, I think they'd need some time period, but not a specific day.
Okay.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Ari, one of the questions you had asked about the personal dog kennels. Currently, underneath the current rules, if they have more than 3 animals or less than 6, they're supposed to have one right now anyway.
So
basically,
we're just not enforcing?
We're creating a permit capable of doing 2 types where you can have actually go beyond the 6. And I have up to 8 animals, which would help out in this situation.
Any more? Anything else? Well, these all have to be done individually.
Well, I just want to make sure, so we're going to add a residence permit 1 or 2, we're going to go ahead and approve that the inspector has a right to go inside the residence.
Well, that verbiage, I don't think I'd be comfortable with. I think you can direct me to create appropriate verbiage that is legally defendable.
Yeah.
And I can do that, and we can do this floor amendment, and we've talked about this before. You want to do floor amendments, we can do it, but do you want me to bring it back? Do you want to see it again? You don't have to do that. Your option is just direct me to do it.
Okay.
But that's up to the council. So the notion would be that there'd be an appropriate inspection, annual inspection, that was legally defensible language.
You know,
Yes.
if somebody goes down and applies for a personal dog kennel permit, do they do an inspection before they issue the permit, according to this new ordinance?
I don't know if they do that or not, and I don't know
On a commercial.
if Mr. Kelly knows either. I'm sorry, Chief Kelly.
Currently, the policy is that they're supposed to allow the animal control officer to do an inspection. There's no timeline on it, and I would suggest that there possibly, as far as verbiage, might be used like an unannounced inspection prior to issuance of permits. So if a person applies for it, there's an unannounced period of time. Might be something that Joel could look at. The current policy is they're supposed to do an annual inspection. It's not mandated, it's more of a suggestion, and we're trying to change that so it is a requirement, especially in the aftermath of the incident we all had here, and then the 800 dog hoarding thing down in Tucson. This seems to be something that's becoming more and more prevalent throughout the community here, not here, but throughout the valley. So a lot of the agencies are trying to get together to address these, but with the unannounced inspection, it might help the person that is having the animals at hand a little more cognizant that they can expect it somewhere, and Joe could probably create some sort of leeway, whether it's 30 or 60 or 90 days, but they can issue a permit, and then within that period of time, an unannounced audit or inspection would be made, and then they can confirm the issuance of the license. That's just a suggestion.
That's a good suggestion.
Okay. So back to my
answer your
question.
question is yes, but no.
Yes, it would be.
Yes, they would do an inspection prior to issuing the permit.
Yes.
Okay. If somebody agrees to having an inspection done of their home or their dog boarding or breeding area prior to getting a permit, those are the people that are probably, they know they're on the books, they know that they have the possibility of being watched. I think that the problem we've got are the people that don't get the permits, they don't have the licenses, they don't go through any of the proper channels at all. So I would just like to say that the ones who are going through the proper channels up front, that we not do the in-home inspections as a mandatory thing.
That would be not legal. That would be an arbitrary and capricious matter, and you can't discriminate like that.
Okay.
You have to treat everybody the same.
I understand.
And in regards to the in-residence, where it's actually somebody's home, there are some legal constraints that we would have to adhere to, just like if I wanted to walk in your house and look around at your computer, if you tell me, no way, I'm going to have to go to the court to get the judge issuing a warrant. But other than that, as the council says, we could probably do something to suspend, at least temporarily, that license or permit. But with the right legal verbiage in there, it can be doable.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have the staff for this?
That's a good question.
That was my question. Have we done any fiscal impact analysis on it?
Yeah, I have no idea how many permits we'll have. I'm just curious. We're going to have to look at the next budget.
I don't know the answer to that. That's a city manager question, or an assistant city manager question.
What do you think, Brian? We got the staff right now if we approve this ordinance?
I actually honestly don't have any idea without conversing with the staff, but I know they're super swamped.
I know, and that's
so that's my concern is that we haven't thought that through yet, George. Do you have any take on that?
What? It would be good for us to have an opportunity to talk with the staff about it. If it were to be done in terms of paid staff performing these inspections, I think you're going to find next year a very challenging year, add or heighten to the level of services that you're offering. It's going to be a challenging budget.
Yes. Your mic's not on, George.
What about the addition of the permissive word may? That does not mandate it, but says it could happen.
That they may,
That they may inspect commercial or personal kennels.
Based on a reason,
well, that's the problem. The problem is when you put may in there, that gives
You're not treating
animal
them
control the
fair.
ability to just pick and choose. And once again, you get back into and I'm not saying they would do this, but there might be a legal issue as to the constitutionality of the language.
to be based on probable cause. If somebody files a complaint that there's 400 dogs barking, that's probable cause. They may go in and do an inspection. If there's no probable cause, then they wouldn't have to do an annual inspection.
Probable cause is not needed in an administrative inspection. These would both be administrative inspections.
Yes.
Well, how are they doing it now with the idea of going, as policy, going out and reviewing the applicants?
Once again, I am not sure how they do that. My guess is they just knock on the door and, hey, can I inspect? I'm not sure they're doing that. Once again, the animal control officers aren't here tonight to answer that unless Chief Kelly knows the answer. I do not know the answer to that.
Can I ask one more question?
At the present time, again, it's one of those catch-or-catch-can type things. It's done when they have the time to do it. There's nothing set in stone through any ordinance you all have. They're trying to get a procedure where it would able to document and be able to do a tickler system, would give them a reminder when they're supposed to look at these items and when. It's something that they're trying to work on, but there are, other constraints we all are having in regards to that. But it is more of a compliance type thing versus an enforcement operation.
Yeah, I know they're working on policies and procedures, but that has not come to fruition yet.
I have one more question. Is there anything anywhere, this is talking about a personal kennel permit and then a Class 2 permit or a commercial permit. Is there anywhere in the middle, and you would probably be able to help me most on this one, Kathy, is there anywhere in the middle of this for someone who is boarding animals for, say, the shelter? Someone who is actually helping animals to not be euthanized but finding them a home? Where would that fall into play?
I don't think it's addressed in here at all.
That's not addressed at all.
That's like an emergency.
Yeah.
I don't think it's mentioned in here at all.
Because there's a lot of situations where somebody is helping board an animal until a home is found, where they may have 10, they may have 12 for a short period of time.
Yeah, this doesn't, the ones I've read don't touch on the issue of an emergency foster program or something.
Exactly. I'd like to see, and I'm sorry if this does have to go back, but I'd like to see something like that put in, because I think that we've missed a very important category.
Is that too big for an amendment, Joe?
I would say at this point, I should bring this back because we're getting into different areas. That's okay. I'll do whatever you want me to do.
No, I really think that item should be in there also. I'm concerned, this kind of guiding philosophy of mine of creating ordinances and not having the staff to enforce it. And it's just been kind of a guideline that I've always followed. So that kind of concerns me if we're creating something and we're just doing it to do it, but we don't have the staff to actually enforce the ordinance.
And I don't like to create something that isn't fixed. I want to create something that becomes a problem. Let's work it out in the work sessions and perfect it before we implement it. If that's okay with you guys.
I agree. It's too much there's too many amendments, too much What do we do with the other two parts?
We're going to need animal control officers.
The other two items?
there, obviously, to answer some of these questions. They might be able to put some of these questions to rest, but
What I suggest, if you want this to come back, this is a public hearing, so are the other two items, and I think you need to be heard on the other two items also. If anybody wants to be heard, I'd say call for the public hearing, open it up for any questions.
On the whole thing, or just
On items 8, 9, and 10. And then close the public hearing, and then direct me to bring it back with the noted changes from this meeting.
Thanks, Tom.
Sure.
Thank you, Tom.
As you heard, this is a public hearing. Does anyone like to speak on this item?
Noel Benoit, 900 North San Marcos, Lot 35, Apache Junction. At one time, I helped a guy that had a kennel, and his cages for each dog was about 10 feet by 12 foot, and he had a run where half would be turned out at a time. He knew which ones got along. The run was about 25 or 30 feet by about 70 or 80 feet, and the whole thing was covered so sun wouldn't hit it. And he put out quite a few dogs. Because he did it right, quite frankly, he didn't mind if the whole world came and visited every day. He'd sell a lot of dogs.
And help him get rid of them.
Yeah, so if you're doing the job right, what's the big deal about an inspection? In addition to that, not only do you have dogs barking, et cetera, or, and all that, you'd have a stench. And I visited a deal one time it was actually a drug bust, but we got to the one house, and you could smell about 4 or 5 houses down, and you could smell a stench. The gal had 110 cats. So it ended up a double over. Now, that stench was probable cause to go see what was up in that other house. This, however, the whole picture is also a reason why pet police, our police force, our staff, need a degree of discretionary power. Because once in a while you have malicious criminal intent, once in a while you have criminal negligence, and once in a while you have, oops, something happened and I'm in a mess. And people have to be able to handle each accordingly. Now, can you get an arbitrary and capricious appeal? Sure, you'll never stop that. But judges nowadays kind of look at frivolous things as saying, hey, we're not going there. So when it's done right, it will come out right. But this is also a good example of the fact that we do have a lot of laws on the book that disagree with one another. So we need to get it all down, get it right, in this area and in every area. We need to get those areas of disagreements ironed out so that our laws are smooth, congruent, constitutional, the job's done right, the laws are right, enforcement is right, and by the way, for enforcement, there's also grant monies available, which is what I was going to say on the block grant thing before. It was actually, I was on the block grants, but there's overlapping grant areas for dogs, for animals, for, all kinds of areas. So let's get economic development and our grant people looking into those areas. I think Ford Foundation and stuff like that, they've got all kinds of stuff out there to create housing for animals in that kind of a situation, pet care, enforcement, and everything. So let's, at the same time that we're putting the laws together and getting them congruent, let's do some exploration on the grants as well. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Ed Dyson, 5420 Painted Rock Road, Apache Junction. I'm chairman of Superstition Horsemen's Association, and I originally came here to ask that reasonable effort be added to in regards to manure section 6-7-6-2E, but apparently Chip and Joel have taken care of that. I would like to commend Animal Control, our city attorney, and Chip Wilson for revising this amendment in regards to equine. I'm also here to offer our help and assistance. Our membership has vets, farriers, trainers. We can provide temporary housing for equine and livestock, and we have a means of transport in case anything ever happens in regards to livestock. Thank you.
Is anyone else?
Quick question. Generic term animal. Does that cover potbelly pigs, goats?
Under definition, it's in here.
I don't have the full ordinance, so I just have your basic, what you seem to be hung up on is puppy mill. But you use a generic term here in the ordinance itself as animal, which is generic.
Yes,
Right,
I
Ron?
have an answer for you.
Good.
Animal means any mammal of species that is susceptible to rabies except humans and livestock.
Okay.
So the answer is
So
yes.
ducks are okay, fowls, geese are okay, chickens are okay. There's no restrictions on chickens then?
That's correct.
Okay.
There might be some zoning restrictions, but not in this code.
I don't have it here, so.
Well, I'm saying.
I love fact, Joel, I'm sorry.
Oh, I understand. There might be there's a zoning code that does talk about the keeping of certain other types of animals.
And when they issue these permits, are they required to have the shot certificates, or is that a state issue?
You're talking about
The puppy mills.
rabies and
Yeah,
other
rabies,
inoculations.
Parvo, those things.
I believe they're supposed to have all.
That's a city, in the city ordinance, or is that a state?
I think before they give the permit, they would have to show that they've gotten all the correct
Does it say-
immunizations.
Does it say where I can look it up?
You know, let me check. I don't know if it does specifically.
Why don't I tie it up? I can
I can
look
get
it
you an
up.
answer. I'll call you.
Good enough. Okay, thanks.
Is there anyone else?
It's, to answer the shot question, it's in section F of 61-7. The permittee shall also have on file proof of rabies vaccination for each dog.
Okay, thank you. So that's the answer.
Thank you so very much for even considering that. That is so vital to putting an end to this. And in terms of your comment about it wouldn't prevent it, no, you're not going to stop them completely. But I will tell you this, in the research that I have done, the state of Pennsylvania, the whole entire state of Pennsylvania, started acting upon these amendments in their state for inspecting people with commercial dog kennels. All of a sudden, all of the hoarders, all of the puppy mills, sadly, started fleeing to West Virginia. It is very effective. When people come here and they know that these laws are enforced, they think twice about coming here. I just hope that you can consider that. Now, I don't even know if this is legal, but you were talking about the fiscal impact, and I understand that is a big issue. It's an important issue. There are a lot of very, very highly trained, qualified behaviors, dog behaviors, trainers in this valley alone. I guarantee you would volunteer in a heartbeat to do this very thing, just to eradicate the abuse that's going on.
If you know of any of those people,
I do.
and you could turn in some names and phone numbers with their approval, it would be
Okay.
nice to have them on file.
Good. Thank you very much. I shall. Thanks so much.
Is there anyone else?
Mayor Encelaco, members of the council, Todd O'Leary, 2898 South Arizona Road. I know that you have well-meaning with this ordinance, and the case with the 180 pets was tragic, but I don't really like us creating ordinances that place undue burdens upon otherwise law-abiding citizens. I could be a pet owner with 5 dogs, and I could care for my dogs properly, clean up after them properly, protect the neighborhood from my pets. And I don't understand really what benefit there will be to just going and asking my neighbors to apply for an extra permit and pay a $60 fee. I could be a pet owner with one single dog. In fact, I have one single dog, which we adopted from the animal shelter here. And we unfortunately think that she might have been an abused pet. But I could be a single dog owner and still abuse that pet. And you can have you can institute this ordinance, but unfortunately, if somebody wants to hoard 100 dogs, they're going to do it irregardless of what ordinances you've placed. It wasn't the lack of an ordinance that failed us with these 184 dogs. It was our failure as neighbors and citizens for not paying attention and raising the flag when there should have been some reason for concern. It's not about ratting out our neighbors, but looking out for one another and these innocent animals. So I understand your well-meaning with this, but I wish there was some other way that we could deal with just residential owners who happen to own more than a certain number of pets. Thank you.
May I? Okay. Yes, well, let me finish the public hearing.
Tesnessa, 1511 South Cactus Road. One thing that I haven't heard you mention, and I haven't been here when you've been discussing this, so I don't really know, but I'm just kind of curious. Ari, you mentioned about someone you know having 2 dogs that had puppies, and they have, what, 7 or 9 now?
8.
And Joe, you asked the city attorney about maybe extending the time from 24 to 36 hours when somebody needs to, when they have too many. But what I haven't heard us talk about is people having dogs and they have a litter, and they're going to not find them homes till they're weaned in about 8 weeks. So they have a litter of 10 or 12 puppies. Do they have to get rid of them in 36 hours?
No, it's under 3 months, I believe.
So, like I said, I don't know if that's been discussed, but I just...
Did you hear what Joe said?
No.
It's under 3 months of age, or
Okay.
over 3 months of age.
Okay, just curious.
Okay, Joe, you said something?
Yes, to Todd O'Leary, again, like the property maintenance standards, I'm hoping that this is for the very few people that don't comply. And from what I understand, hoarding is almost, almost a disability. It is not intended, it's not intentional. So if the people were to go out and get a permit, they're on the books. We know about them. And when they start hoarding, at least we have the opportunity to say, we think this is happening, can we inspect? That's where I'm thinking on this one. You're right, the ones who are hoarding intentionally, this won't work, but hopefully it's not that case.
Is there anybody else for the public hearing? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Discussion?
Well, that's also another comment to Todd. One of the things that is currently is on the books, if they have to, if required to have a license, if they have more than 3 animals. That's what the current one is. We've changed that to if you own more than 4. And we're talking of animals over 3 months of age. So we have loosened it up a little bit and expanded it.
It's actually reads more than 5. So it's actually more lenient.
It is more lenient.
Yeah. And if we were enforcing our current ordinance now, you probably have upset citizens, I'm sure. The volunteers, I think, is great, but I don't think a volunteer goes to a person's residence or to a commercial kennel, do they? I mean, you got to have a city employee go to someone's residence representing the city, you know.
Actually, the concept is most intriguing. I recently saw a news release from the city of Mesa, and I just scanned it quickly, and I'll go back and find it, but I believe the concept was to work with volunteers on code enforcement issues. So I'm very interested in the common sense suggestion whether it would be legally viable and what qualifications, what standards would need to be met, because clearly the potential use of governmental power is a very, very significant and serious responsibility. On the other hand, if they did the initial review and were able to only involve code enforcement or animal control if they saw something, in other words, they wouldn't take any formal action, but they could trigger a subsequent inspection. I don't know. I found it an interesting concept,
I
and
think
one
it's-
that I think I'd like to explore with the city attorney.
I was going
and
to
see
say,
if there's
talk
some
to
way
Joel
of
if
making that work.
I don't
Very
know of
creative.
any other area. I think the volunteer program is great, and I know they have volunteers throughout animal control. I just don't know about going to people's residence as a volunteer.
It would need to be thought out. I was intrigued with Mesa's exploration of it for code enforcement. Maybe apples and oranges, but
I got to tell you, one concern that somebody else brought up to light to me is if we actually have truly qualified livestock inspectors, equestrian inspectors.
With the help of the association, I believe we do.
Because someone was cited, they got called, and they said that they thought the citing was injustice, and they challenged the officer, and they had A through Z as their rational reasons why, and do we actually, are our inspectors actually livestock qualified?
No, that's done through the state, whenever they have an issue regarding.
But our
livestock.
inspectors will write citations on livestock.
Our inspectors, well, I don't know what area you're talking about, but if you're talking about manure, that's a different issue. I know that was a big issue with certain cases that we've had in the last, I don't know, 8 or 9 months. But if there's cruel treatment to a horse, for example, I don't think you want this code to prohibit our officers from looking into that.
No. I'm just concerned that we have somebody on staff that, I mean, we've got a
Well,
lot of equestrian.
Mr. Assistant City Manager, is there money in the budget for a new person who is totally qualified?
There you go,
in
Artie, you
livestock?
asked for it.
That's the question, and that's a very special area, and that could be expensive.
Your Honor.
Is that a
Well,
question for?
I was asking for your help, yes.
We do not have the money in the budget right now, but that could be for budget discussion for.
I just don't know how we write citations when the person writing the citation doesn't know livestock, and they're writing a citation on livestock.
Well,
Your Honor.
About livestock?
Yeah, equestrian.
Can I, let me go back a little bit in time. At one point in time, the statutes required the city to have a board of health, and give me a second, I'll bring it back around. Rather than have a certified city health inspector, we were allowed to appoint a medical expert who, when there was a medical situation, a health inspection, let's say overflowing sewer in a mobile home park, that person came and rendered a report and was paid on an hourly basis. You might want to consider the same thing here rather than bring in a staff person. So.
Something to think about.
I know of 3 horse livestock equine experts in this room tonight, and 2 of them I know would be willing to help from the Horsemen's Association. And Mr. Bunton, you, I believe, are a horse expert. And if some of these people were willing to help, and they could be on a list and be qualified, and it be made possible that if there is any livestock or equestrian situation, they would be called in on a voluntary basis to assess the situation. It would save the city money and possibly even, not legal advice, but advise animal control on which direction to go.
Mr. Mayor, if I could explain something. When we get a case where we believe it's a livestock issue, the prosecutor would get the case from animal control, and if it's a long-form complaint, the prosecutor's going to look at it. If the prosecutor thinks there's sufficient evidence, then the prosecutor will pursue it. If there's a livestock issue, then we would obviously call in a livestock expert. We'd have to prove the case. So that, it's not as if we are totally blind to what you're talking about.
Well, I'm wondering if
Especially
you
in
can
court.
help me out?
Call in the live.
I'm done.
Okay.
I thought he was done.
Your Honor. One of the things that Joel mentioned is they're writing a procedure for, or policies of how they proceed to do. And in talking to livestock, or excuse me, animal control, We have talked to them, and they have agreed to basically, in a sense, be calling some of the local organizations in the community, whether it's the Superstition Horsemen's Association, the State Horsemen's Association, the Mounted Rangers, if it involves, I'll say equine, and they would come out and assist animal control. And of course, the ultimate is, and we all recognize it, is all going to go to the state livestock, and they would be making the final decision. But at least they have offered, they've got several organizations and people that, several organizations have people that are veterinarians, part of the membership, that are different backgrounds as far as the different things. So I think that part, as long as it's put into their policies and procedures, I think will be covered. I don't think we have a problem there.
But it's nothing new. What I'm saying is you've had to have heard something similar to what I've heard of in the past as far as equestrian people challenging city staff.
Yes, I have. Yeah. That's where we've stepped forward and we worked on it. I know George has mentioned the fact that it's been done in the past, and when I was president of the Superstition Horsemen's Association, we worked with the city on some issues as well.
I'd just like to say that I'd like for that volunteer assistance to come in before it goes to prosecution. You know, we shouldn't have to wait for prosecution and go through all that first. If anything has to do with equine and the animal control officer doesn't quite have that area of expertise, call in one of these groups that would be willing to help right up front.
You got your hands filled, Joel.
Well, I'm not putting that in the ordinance.
I know you don't. You got your hands
policies.
filled out. I just here. If there's no more discussion, I'll call for a motion on this item.
Your Honor, I got one other question I wanted to ask on the ordinance 1311, and on the second page where we're talking about microchip fees, we have a fee for
Actually,
at-large.
if I could, I'm sorry to interrupt. Let's do a motion on 0746 first, and then let's do the other two items with public hearings.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
We already did public hearings.
Well, I don't think the two other items were announced. I didn't hear
No,
that
they
in the
weren't.
title. They were not announced. So I think we should do that for the public.
People spoke on
Okay, I thought they were.
We said we were doing them all together.
Yeah, but I didn't hear the mayor announce
Okay,
it
so
after I
we
said
need a
that.
motion on item 8.
Yes.
Your Honor. I move that the resolution of 07-46, resolution of the mayor and city council, City of Apache Junction, Arizona, declaring it as a public record for a certain document filed with the city clerk entitled Amendment to the Apache Junction City Code, Volume 1, Chapter 6, Animals, be extended until, do you need a specific date, Joel?
Actually, if you could give me another month to bring this back.
Okay.
All you have to do is say bring it back in a month, and that's all
Bring
we
it
need to
back
do.
approximately about a month.
Yes.
Second.
Moving second. Roll call.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Surtee?
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Mayor Insulaco?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Proposed ordinance number 1310, repealing current Chapter 6 animals and adopting an amendment to Chapter 6 animals of the city code by reference.
And Mr. Mayor, that is just the authorization to save publication expenses, just a formality. However, it is a public hearing.
Okay, would anyone like to speak on this item?
Hi, my name is Bob Hassett. I'm up at Gold Canyon, 10396 East La Palma, and I'm getting followed up with the numbers, but on the fees, I think for adoption should be raised.
Sir, did you say you live in Gold Canyon?
Yes. That's the hurts.
Well, actually, the fees would be the next item.
Oh, okay. Well, on the fines then, first offense, $250, I don't think, I think a warning ought to be given to because I've known people that have animals and, you open the door with your bundles to go in shopping, the dog might get out on you, and then you're searching for it, and then in the meantime, the police officer grabs it because he's going through, and I think it should be left at the discretion of the police officer before, for the first fine. I think it should be a warning, and after that, if it happens again, then, it's just negligence. Until then, I don't think it should be the first fine. First-time offense should be fined $250. And while I'm up here, if you don't mind me speaking on the other one, I think the adoption shouldn't go up because I think you're going to be overrun with people who can't afford to pay the extra money for the adoptions on the animals. Thank you.
Is there any other ones who want to speak on this item? John?
Evening, good Mayor and Council. I haven't seen the fee schedule or the penalties or whatever for this new animal code thing, but I would ask you to look at, and I don't know if you're going to make it in an ordinance this tonight or whatever, for your elderly and your handicapped. Some of these elderly people are on fixed incomes that, a pet to them is everything in the world. Maybe they lost a husband or a wife or whatever, and sometimes fees can go too high where they can't afford it. And then you don't have, them where they're not going to bring in their pet because they can't afford it, whatever. And even with handicapped people, I mean, some of them are on fixed income that have these dogs and stuff like that for pets or even to help them around the house. So I don't know if it's incorporated into this fee schedule or not, but I wish you would consider that, of directing staff to look into that, to possibly putting it in for, somebody over the age of 65 that's on a fixed income or, a disabled person for that. So thank you.
First of all, so that's the next item.
Well, I was talking on both of them. I'm talking about the penalty fees and the fees for the thing. The penalties too at $250. I don't know who set up the schedule or what it is after that or whatever. But, and again, I haven't seen the ordinance. I'm just saying, if you do, please consider your elderly and your handicapped in there, because they are probably on fixed incomes and they're not going to be able to afford a lot of this. And instead of just getting rid of their pet or complying with the law, they're going to not come into you to do it. So, you want to have that happen. We'd like to have all the pets licensed in the city now. So consider it at least. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'll respond to that really quickly. Currently, these violations are Class 1 misdemeanor. The maximum fine is $2,500. There could be an 84% penalty slapped onto that. It could be over $4,000 technically, 6 months jail. So we are decriminalizing these significantly. When my prosecutor and myself are in court, typically, we, of course, don't fine people $4,000, otherwise you'd be getting calls every single day.
This is just cleaning up the ordinance, basically.
Exactly. The typical fine on a first violation, and that's probably after they've been warned several times. The officers, they do exercise discretion. Joe, that's not zoning.
I didn't say nothing.
Okay. I know. But they do They do exercise their common sense and discretion. And I'm sure on the first violation, they do not give out a ticket. But these are relatively cheap, and also you don't want to give someone a Class 1 misdemeanor on a first-time leash law violation. I've done it, and I've had to do it because that's what the law says. I haven't liked doing it, but that's what I have done. Yeah. So has my assistant, Mary Ann Coyne. This makes it a civil violation, like a traffic ticket. First three times within 24 months. The fourth time, it would be a Class 1 misdemeanor.
Ari?
No, that was my concern, is that we are giving warnings, because dogs do get out. I know monsoon storms, I had to take some dogs back one time that got out just because literally the wind blew the gate open. So I hope there is discretion being used, and it's not first time the dogs do this, we're giving them a $250 fine. First violation.
Look there.
Noel Benoit, 900 North San Marcos, Lot 35. That's where I thought we were covering some of this on the other one that I talked about. But as long as the officers have and exercise discretionary power, there's no real problem there. And by the way, Phoenix and Maricopa County both have volunteer enforcement officers, but they go through the enforcement training, et cetera. BLM has inspectors that are volunteers, so you can supplement your enforcement with some of that.
Is there anybody else? If not, I'll close the public hearing. Any discussion? Any more discussion?
We're doing this.
Just one right here, right now.
Well, actually, that'd be another motion to continue with the others.
This one, yes.
Yeah.
Do we have to do it by title only, or do we?
No.
Okay.
No.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I move that ordinance number 1310 be continued for at least 30 days for Joel to perfect it or tighten it up a little bit.
Second.
Moving second, roll call.
Councilmember Surtee?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Mayor Instalato?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Proposed ordinance number 1311, amending Chapter 4 fees by amending Article 4-3 Animal Control Fee Schedule.
Same, Mr. Mayor, same situation.
Same situation.
Yeah, and by the way, these are on the internet, so anybody could look at these as attachments, I believe.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone that didn't have a chance to say anything before? How did I know? Lewis?
Hi, Mayor, Council. Louis Babin, 2191 South Bel Air Road. Just want to ask you to keep the fees as low as possible for the residents of AJ. Thank you.
Is there any more? I'll close the public hearing. Yes, discussion, yes.
I got one question on the microchip fees. We have a microchip for a dog at large. We have a fee for microchipping an adopted cat. And then there's nothing mentioned about the dogs, and then there's in the adoption fees, it's $80. Now, does that include the microchip as well, or is there supposed to be an additional amount on top of that?
I think automatically, my understanding is when they adopt out animals, they're going to microchip all the animals that they adopt out, and that would include the fee for the adoption fee, yes.
So the at-large is if my dog gets out and runs free and I come pick it up, they would microchip it?
Yes.
Okay.
Just for the record, Your Honor.
Yes.
Under page 1, item 1, the fees, the sterilized, the license fees, $10 per dog. Under that, it says $5 per dog for senior citizens at least 62 years of age or older. So it does address that, John, but it doesn't say anything about disabled, and we might consider that.
Okay, I can.
Also add a definition of disabled.
Okay, same thing. I'll call for a motion.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I move that ordinance number 1311 be continued for 30 days.
Second.
Second, moving second, roll call.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Councilmember Surtee?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Mayor Instalato?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Take a 10-minute break, and let's make 10 minutes.
There's not a single thing that is, there's 3 others that signed it.
already said he'll be right back.
Yes. Hey, don't be writing notes to me. Don't be writing notes to me. She didn't like that.
Is that what's coming? Yeah. Is it a cedar base? Right. Section. Cedar.
Where?
I don't see it.
I don't think so.
Buy new watches.
When are you going with the slimy golem? Thursday? Tomorrow. Oh, okay. I won't go there then. For my
Find him $1 a minute, give money to charity. Little jar up there by the mayor's desk.
Direction of staff on city council residency. Mr. Hoffman?
This item affords council the opportunity to give direction to staff on this matter if they so choose.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I've been asked to open this up for a public hearing because I think people are here, they want to talk about it.
I don't think you can do that.
I don't think the code provides for that. If you want, we can reschedule this for a public hearing. That's the remedy.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I don't want this to drag out any longer than it needs to, okay? I believe in my heart and soul that I am doing nothing wrong, that I am representing this community, I am fighting for the rights of the citizens like I promised to do almost 3 years ago. And if it takes this council hiring a private investigator to prove what Joel has already told me and what I have tried to prevent from doing anything wrong, then so be it. But if we have to hire somebody, tell them to come to me first, because I will give them any information they need, anything at all.
Any more discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes.
you know, from what I understood from Joel last night, intent is the operative word, and I don't think that any of us can prove anybody else's intent. That's an impossibility. And to drive more of a wedge into this council as a group, I think would be a terrible mistake. I really do.
I definitely think, and I asked to put it on because I've heard so much of it in the community. I don't know if it's up to us, the council, to go, you know, if it's as simple as calling the AG's office and asking what's the rule, but do we go out and hire a PI to check one of our colleagues? I don't know if that's our responsibility or not. I was just trying to put some fires out there, and I don't know. I would want to be clear. Joe, if I was you, I'd want to bring this thing to a closure.
Whatever it takes. But I would like to do it without costing the city any money.
I'll make a I move that the city attorney be directed to communicate with the Arizona Attorney General on the issue of Councilmember Joe Sievers' city residency, which is required to maintain while serving as council member. Should the Arizona Attorney General determine this is not a matter it can handle and investigate in a timely manner due to staffing issues, city attorney directed to retain an independent investigator to look into the resident allegations recently brought to the light by the media. The goal is to have the matter investigated and resolved so the city can move on to city business without any more of this disruptive distractions. Both the city manager and the city attorney have a conflict of interest to investigate this matter themselves, which is why the Attorney General or a third party should look into this matter. A status report and any discussion shall be also scheduled for each work session hereafter until the matter is fully resolved. I further move that the city attorney be authorized to retain outside legal counsel to file an appropriate legal action that the Attorney General's office does not do and that a third-party investigator recommends. Second.
What was that about the work sessions?
Pardon me?
I was having trouble keeping up. What did you say about the work sessions?
A status report and discussion shall be also scheduled for each work session hereafter until the matter is fully resolved.
I still had some questions.
Okay.
How long do you think this would last? I don't want it to drag on either.
That's why.
Just like when we put the work sessions, we started airing them, we should have transparency, get it all out in the open and be done with it.
That's why I said that if the Attorney General can't do it in a timely manner, that a third party be brought in.
I would almost want to see, because we want to be positive and not drag us down, maybe even have some kind of a gag order instead of constant discussing it. Let's just move on, have this investigated, be done with it, and move on, and not bring it up all the time.
We can do that.
According to the letter that was distributed, I'm under the understanding that the Attorney General has already been contacted and stated that this is a city matter.
But not by our city attorney.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
The gag order, I don't understand that one, because there are First Amendment issues here. As for the letter, I don't know anything about a letter. I haven't contacted the Attorney General's office. I haven't been asked to. So I don't know anything about that. And I know that in a different community, the Attorney General was contacted on a Public Record Act, open meeting violation, and they are acting on it. So I can't say that they won't. I don't know. They have limited staff also, but they may take this as a serious matter. They may not.
They don't.
So you called for a motion, you made the motion, and now it's up whether there's going to be a second.
I'll second it then. Get it over with.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Barker?
No.
Councilmember, Councilmember Sievers?
No.
Vice Mayor Eck?
No, I can't do it.
Councilmember Wilson?
No.
Councilmember Surrey?
Once there's been 4 votes, it doesn't matter. But I was going to say yes to get it out in the open. Otherwise, it's going to linger like a festering sore. We should get to the bottom of it.
I don't disagree with that.
So I hope this ends it.
So is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor Enslock?
Yes.
2 in favor, 4 opposed, the motion fails, Your Honor.
Direction of staff on creating an administrative relief exemption for certain zoning code standards. Brad?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Brad Stanke, Development Services Director. This is one of 3 items that you have before you tonight with the action to send it to, if you desire, on to Planning and Zoning Commission, which will evaluate, recommend, and then bring it back to you. This is the administrative relief, what we'll call the 10% rule. We discussed it last night. If you are prepared to move it forward, we will take it to the next available Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for consideration.
And, Your Honor?
Yes.
Brad, this is for new building, correct? New proposals, new development?
Yes.
In other words, they are coming to you with plans and saying, I can't meet this 10-foot setback, so can you give me 9 instead? So we're
That is
talking new
correct.
development with this first one.
Pre-construction.
Okay.
Your Honor, I want to follow up with a question that Brad.
Go ahead.
Sorry. We're talking pre-construction, like I say, I'm going to build a garage on my property, which is, property's already has a house on it. Would this be classified as pre-construction, or we're talking strictly blank land?
No, that would apply.
Okay.
Yes.
Based on what we were talking about yesterday, I know that this is for new construction. Could the 10% rule apply to past or post-construction? I know what we talked about last night. I got the two agenda items kind of mixed up. Could the 10% rule apply to post-construction in the case where someone has made a mistake?
I considered that originally. When we talked it over with the city attorney was uncomfortable with that, and I guess Joel will let you speak to it.
That would require a variance. So that would mean the answer is no. It'd have to be, this would be pre-construction only.
Okay.
And if it's already built, then currently someone would have to go to the Board of Adjustment for a variance.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else? Thanks, Brad.
We'll move out of the way to make sure that.
Call for a motion.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that the following direction be given to staff regarding creating an administrative relief exception from certain zoning standards, that this be taken to the first planning and zoning meeting for their approval.
Second.
Moving second, roll call.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Surtee?
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Mayor Ex-Flacco?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Direction to staff on creating a hearing officer in lieu of Board of Adjustments.
Same story, Mayor and council members, that we're looking for direction, if you so choose, to take this to the Planning and Zoning Commission. By the way, on all three of these ordinances, we have drafted some language. That language may get adjusted, discussed, and come back to you. You may, in fact, change it a little bit yourself. This puts the wheels in motion, though, for us to do the discussion.
Is there any discussion?
I thought as we discussed last night, I thought it was kind of clear that to me, I felt like we had kind of resolved the fact whether we wanted a hearing officer or not, or a Board of Adjustment. It kind of came down to that, hearing officer or Board of Adjustment. I think we have a Board of Adjustment, and it's not serving the purpose that the intention was, and that was saving money and advertisement. So for me, I thought we concluded last night that we'd go with one or the other. We currently have Board of Adjustments. I think we should stay with that.
I think that if we had a hearing officer, not a Board of Adjustment, would be asking for a board, because the board is going to be more impartial and have more.
The hearing officer
more
would be a
eyes.
professional.
Yeah, and then it sets up for having so much pressure on that hearing officer. If they're not ruling the way that we want, then, the board, I think, will counter each other and balance it. So.
I also agree with that.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Something that me and Robin was speaking about before the meeting. I think there was some confusion in the fact that I thought if a variance was issued, there wouldn't have to be advertising fees, the notification, the whole shot. I know that has to be done for zoning, but I thought for a variance that wasn't the case. Therefore, having a hearing officer could save the citizens some money. And I think with Kathy's input last night, that is not the case. Okay, so issuing a variance is the same as a rezoning.
It has
In-
the same requirements.
Exactly.
That's correct.
My question is, would the same requirements be applied for issuing an exception? I think this is the route that I was looking for in trying to help somebody who is brought into a situation that they weren't aware of, or a mistake that has been made, that somebody would have the authority, based on certain specific criteria, to give an exception.
An exception is a variance. Someone builds it wrong, they find out, or they buy it, and they realize, oh my gosh, I've only owned this a year, but they didn't tell me that this setback line was here, and I messed up. They have to go to the Board of Adjustment, and that's a variance. You use the word exception, it's legally it's a variance.
Is that defined?
It's under Title IX, yes.
So, in the definition of a variance would be the word exception. I mean, it would
Oh, I'm not sure it
fall
says-
into that.
No, but
Because
there-
I've seen where exceptions are given numerous times. It wasn't considered a variance. They didn't have to go through all that. It was simply an exception based on circumstances.
You know, I don't have my zoning code with me, but I can go get it if you'd like, and I could read you the definition of a variance if you want. It's a long definition, I think. It's in our zoning ordinance. Do you have the zoning ordinance? It might be in there.
While he's looking at that, I think the question, and Councilmember Severs, you and I had a discussion late this afternoon, maybe with respect to the fact that you just directed us to go back and work with the Planning and Zoning Commission on an administrative relief exception, okay? That will allow us to waive or modify up to 10%, all right? So I think if I'm reading you and what you and I talked about, that's up to 10%, but there's a cap on it.
Right.
Is there an ability to do, and I think we talked about this last night, a 20% or a 50% or an 80% waiver? Could it apply not just to dimensional issues, but area issues, like parking a trailer in the front yard versus the backyard? And I think last night what Joel was saying was, based on state statutes, there is this definition that 10% seems to be a magic number, that we can go up to that point administratively, but beyond that, then it is a variance issue that creates and requires greater scrutiny. I don't know if you heard what I was saying there, Joel, but I think that was the intent of the council member. Could we wrap in a greater percentage for the relief exception?
I think that would take further research, but my guess would be no. And that would violate 9-462.06
Could we get a
ARS.
copy of that? I'd like to see that if we could.
Well, do you want to give me a moment? I'll go get it.
No, I don't mean tonight.
This
Okay.
is about a hearing officer in the Board of Adjustment. And
That's right.
I think we've resolved that.
Do you want to see the powers of the Board of Adjustment? Because that does include variance. It doesn't define it, but there's case law that probably does define it. Do you want to see the powers? It's 3 pages long.
I don't know.
I could read them to you.
No.
You sure?
I would like a copy of them so I can read them.
Okay.
At some point in time.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be right now.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Brad and Joel, it seems to me that what Councilmember Severs is looking for is the same relief in after the fact as we're looking at before the fact. It seems to me that's what he's looking for. And I guess the question is there such an animal or a methodology by which we could create that animal?
No, that's covered under
So no.
ARS 9
It's very plain. Thank you.
Yes, it's very plain in the law, and that's called a variance, and that's what many people have to go through to get a change in a setback, for example, or a size, or what. There's other things, too.
Okay. I understand. I accept that. I would like to request that we put together some kind of a fund. There are people in our community, elderly, disabled, people that are on a fixed income that simply cannot afford the system. They cannot afford $750 to file an appeal. And I know that we've got a couple funds out there right now, I think $3,000 in one, that would help people make the correction, but it could not be used for the appeals process. And I think it's a shame that somebody cannot afford the system, and there should be some relief fund set up for that.
That would, Your Honor, wouldn't that have to be put on another direction to staff,
Yeah,
because
that's
we're
not-
not dealing with that
It's
at
got
all
nothing to
here.
do with
Right.
this,
Or
But
budget
it-
time would be good.
It could-
or budget time.
Yeah. I think budget time would be good.
That's fine. That's just where I thought that the hearing officer
I-
may be able to help.
I understand, and I understand the intent, and I thought we could get away without the advertising, get a hearing officer originally. As a discussion last night, I found that was enough, so unfortunately it didn't work, so maybe we'll have to try a different angle, trying to help resolve.
Okay, one more point of clarification, Your Honor. So what we're saying is that the hearing officer and the Board of Adjustments are basically the same thing, so why
change
get rid
it?
of what we
Why get
have?
rid of what we got?
So we could give direction to staff to forget this.
Yeah, I'd do a motion if you want.
Okay, I'll ask for it. Go
I'll
ahead.
move that direction, staff regarding the hearing officer and the Board of Adjustment be dissolved, that we stay with our current system of Board of Adjustment.
Second.
Moved in second. Roll call.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Surtee?
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes, but Brad's smiling, so.
No, I just don't
All
know
that
that you
work
need
for
to have a
nothing.
motion to do that, but.
Well, I'm glad, though, it's another thing that we can say staff successfully implemented council's direction, which was to do nothing, so.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Mayor
think it has
Instalaco?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
You can find out a lot of information.
Direction to staff on amending utility undergrounding ordinance.
We are prepared to take that forward to the Planning and Zoning Commission if you so desire.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes.
Like I said last night, I think that you have taken our concerns of an ordinance that did not work. Sandy Smith told me one time, you cannot rule by exception. To make an exception now and then is a good thing, but to rule by exception, there's something wrong with your rules, which is what we were doing in this particular case. And you've taken this very big burden to the citizens or the businesses that was affected by it, and you've made it reasonable, you've made it practical, you've implemented a lot of common sense, and I want to thank you for it. I think it's nice.
Anything else?
Need a motion, Your Honor?
You betcha. Go ahead.
Okay, I move that the following direction be given to staff regarding amending the utility underground ordinance, that this too be taken to planning and zoning for their perusal.
A second. Moved in second. Roll call.
Councilmember Surtee?
Yes.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Mayor Instalaco?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appointing the meeting.
Selection of meeting dates, time, location.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I move that the executive session at 6 p.m. and the work session at 7 p.m. be held on Monday, March 31st, 2008, in the City Council conference room in the council chambers respectively, and an executive session at 6 p.m. be held on Tuesday, April 1st, 2008, in the City Council conference room.
Second.
Moved in second. Roll call.
Councilmember Severs?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Eck?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilson?
Yes.
Councilmember Surtee?
Yes.
Councilmember Barker?
Yes.
Mayor Instalaco?
Yes.
Unanimous, Your Honor.
We're done.